Hello, everyone. Hello, welcome. Welcome to another town hall. I am flying solo today. I'm going to do it all myself, do it live. We've got it's a very special treat, I think, for people who are involved in the gaming industry. Matthew Ball, the author of The Metaverse, consultant to the gaming industry, released his report for the gaming industry of 2026. There's a lot of really, it's just like last year's report, a lot of really good information, a lot of dense information about, metrics from this past year and how the trends have been going over the past, say, 10 years. So we'll go over all that. And again, I think it supports a lot of the theses that we have here at YOM. So we'll go over that. First, before we jump right into that, because that's going to be it's going to be intense with some data. Let me first bring up some of the images from this week's people who have been rendering images of Walter. If you don't know, Walter is our mascot, and what we do is we allow people to post their own images of Walter. These are all obviously AI generated, but we love seeing them. And I'm going to rate the ones that we like the best. These couple that we have are really good. Casey, if you should follow Casey on X, this one of Walter reading a book, enjoying a nice cup of tea. The only difference, I guess I would say, is Walter has round rimmed glasses, but you're very close there, Casey. Actually, I think this one has even better. It's another one from Casey. Nicely done. Looking at the storm coming in. That looks like Walter to me. Very well done. Thank you, Casey. David, Walter looking jacked out on in a canyon, looking out over the wilderness. I always like these ones where he's looking out over the wilderness. I would say this is Walter on a good day, or actually after a good couple of weeks of watching what he eats. I actually think the prompt kind of has it more like the way that bad guy here has it. And this is the one that I think is gonna, when I put him in the intro video, this is Walter really as we see him, slightly overweight, but looking like he's enjoying himself on a nice spring day. And where I am, we are actually hitting spring weather. So it's been crazy. We're going to get some really nice weather coming up. So those are our posts with our Walter. Thank you so much, Walter. Thank you so much to everybody in the community who's pitched in to provide an image. If you are interested in generating your own Walter images, the prompt is that he is a excuse me, he is a rust furred, his fur is rust colored. He's slightly overweight gorilla. He wears that white t-shirt with the YOM logo and blue jeans and round rim glasses. Generally looks pretty stoic or happy. He's just kind of like the dude from The Big Lebowski. He just kind of takes the world as it comes. So that is some. So let me also share with you the community mindshare board. We've got a new lead this week, so let's bring that up as well. Rihan is taking the lead over EJ. EJ was doing very well and had, I think, 4 weeks in a row at the top of the leaderboard, but right there in second place. It's still very hot and heavy. So the way that our leaderboard works, again, if you are on social media at all, register with us and then post important content. Let people know really what YOM is and what we're providing. So if you're new to us, what we do is we provide a decentralized cloud gaming network. We provide cloud gaming at 95% lower cost than you would have with a central server like an Amazon or an NVIDIA, because our system is decentralized. People who have a gaming rig at home that sits idle most of the day, if they're at school or they're at work, they can put their rig up on our network and we stream games from their rig to the players, and the players can reach the game through any URL. We have game streaming inside of Telegram and Discord both. So if you're looking to spread your game through social media, this is the best system to do it. We have integrated into Canva. So if you're presenting your game to investors and you want to include it in your presentation, you can embed the stream inside of your Canva. Basically, any way that you stream, that people currently stream a YouTube video, you can now stream your game content in with the same ease. Really, it's a single line of code that you drop onto a website that pulls up the stream from our network to the end user. So that's what YOM is. And these folks here in the leaderboard have been spreading the word about what YOM does. They've been helping us out in our community. I would like to also call out, we just redid our website and relaunched it. I mean, when I say just, it was like in the last couple of hours. So the website is now up again and new. If you have just getting introduced to YOM, yom.net, you'll see this is where you can play any of the games right off the website itself. Find out more about our blog. and our history. We've been doing this now. We've been at it for about 2 years as we build the technology to launch the mainnet, which is going live in the next couple of months. All right, that is the bulk. I think I've done all the housekeeping. Generally, what I try to do is I'll have a guest on board, and the guest will help me carry the day. So today, the guest is the report that Michael Ball has released. And again, if you're not familiar with who Michael Ball is, let me bring up the presentation and share it with you all. Michael Ball is a consultant to the gaming industry. He's also an author. I'm going to switch that so less me, more of it. Presentation. So Michael Ball is a author. He wrote the book The Metaverse, among other things. Very well respected talent in the gaming industry and in the I guess you call it technology space. So his report last year was very dense. That was the first time I got a chance to get introduced to his reporting in this way. It was super good for us because he talked about cloud gaming and the importance of cloud gaming into the future. I'm going to go into that as I get towards the end of the presentation, but I'm going to go through now. What I say, it's a dense report. I've only got a handful of slides. I got about 60 of the 160 plus slides of his whole presentation. So go to his website and find at, I think it's mball.com or Epsilon. I should write down that below. EPYLLION.co is where you can reach him and find this report. So I suggest if you're in the gaming industry, you're going to want to read the whole thing. So I'm only going to hit some of the important points and then kind of tie it into what we do here at YOM and why we think this report is helpful to us. This is the table of contents. Oh, the other thing is I tend to talk fast. I know I do. I'm going to try to slow myself down, speak more clearly, not drop off at the end of a sentence, all those things. Get the microphone nice and close. So I will, and I'll keep the chat up too. If there's something as I go, if people are like, hey, wait a minute, let's dig into that a little bit deeper, I'm happy to do so. We can do it now, or we can do it at the end. But I've got the messages up. I should be able to see messages from both the Telegram and from the YouTube space. And I think we're also streaming today on LinkedIn. So if feel free to ask questions there. I should be able to see questions from multiple places. Let's go through it. The report has basically, 6 chapters. Spending growth, and we see here, spending growth is more, but more retrenchment. This is basically looking at the way the industry is, where it stands today, why some of the headlines have been maybe a little misleading. This is the chapter 3 and 4 were gripping to me, but how we're losing the attention war in major 8 markets is really I'll go through them, but the major Western markets, Japan and Korea also in there. What those novel interactive activities are are running right now that's taken away from video games. And then the chapter 5, honestly, I think for us the biggest piece is chapter 5, the areas for growth in the industry in 2026, and where I think we play a very strong role at the YOM with the decentralized cloud and the ability to get games anywhere players are on any device at much lower cost than you have with the central servers and everything we've talked about in the past about the problems that those central servers are having and going to have into the future. So the good news is at the very beginning, we've achieved a new high. Mobile PC and console growth has happened, and there's more spending happening now in games than has been in the previous years. We had that dip in 2022, but we have still continued to grow. This, of course, is good for not just us, but the entire gaming industry. And if you're not familiar with my background, I've been in games for 25 years. But again, as I look at this report, most of my time actually making console games and PC games was in that really good growth spurt. So I was enjoying the very high highs of the gaming industry for a large portion of my career. So, but anyways, the good news is we're back into growth. And we had a lot of really great titles that are now new franchises and studios that have popped up that are doing very well. This Dispatch, I want my hat tip to the group at Dispatch who came up with this marketing graphic, because it immediately made me want to look and see what is going on there. And it actually looks like a fantastic game. Many of these games look really, really good. Dispatch caught my eye just because I think that's some great marketing right there. But with all that, there are still these problems. Lots of layoffs. And again, my LinkedIn page is full of very talented people that I've worked with in the past who are out looking for work again. You're seeing the studios, these large studios anyway, still contracting. And that's something that we have to, kind of be mindful of as we go through the report. There are good news, but there's also some people who are really still getting hit by the contraction that's happened over the last couple of years. Um, Now, a couple of things on these two charts. It's talking about, well, yes, the layoffs have slowed down. It could also, layoffs have slowed down, but that could be between last year and this year. But that also could be that most of the layoffs haven't left enough people in the studios to be laid off at this point. It's kind of running really thin in some places. There is growth in there's a lot of open roles now, but they're finding that the open roles, the data is showing that it's moving more overseas. I'm in the US. Obviously, not all the gaming community is in the US or Canada, but they are finding that there's a lot more hiring happening, and a lot of positions are being filled by people from overseas. The one piece I think is nice to see is that remote work has really picked up in the last couple of years, which of course I think is helpful. It allows the studios to be more flexible. They can grab talent without forcing talent to have to move. And a lot of times, the more senior members of talented teams, they have families. Moving for them is not particularly easy. So offering remote work allows you to grab high talented people without forcing them to make a big life change, like a move to a new place. So yes, there's still job loss happening, and it's slowed down a bit, but most of the rehires are happening from overseas. Our operating income. So this is, again, I think what we play into a little bit, but the margins any longer for the amount of the income that a studio is taking in versus the amount of money it costs for them to get a game out and get noticed. Again, those margins have shrunk, and it's been kind of sideways for the last, say, 4 years, but 5-6 years ago it was a high, and it has dipped down between 2020 and 2021 and hasn't really recovered from that. So keeping in mind those margins. And again, when we talk about our delivery system being that much less expensive than having a centralized cloud, that again helps to get those margins to expand, which is again part of the reasons why some of this data is bullish for what we're building over here at YOM. Again, this is talking about how and a lot of his report talks about like China as a separate market to the rest of the world, because China is such a big market and growing very, very fast. So he separates those out a number of times, but the total, so again, the margins eroding so great that the total operating profit it surged like 40%, right? The total operating, what he's saying here is studios are still making less money, even though people are spending more money on games. Because the margins have grown, the amount of money a studio is taking in is actually decreased, despite the amount of money the more money that's flowing in. So the market's growing, it's getting more players, but the profitability is not it's not growing equal to the amount of consumer growth that's happening. So why are these happening? Why is it happening like this? Why are we having more people come into and more money being spent, but it's not proving to be success? The studios are still struggling in places, and they're not as successful as you would think if more people are coming into the gaming, or more money is coming into the gaming industry. Well, he says 7 factors here. We'll touch on many of them. First is a lot of that money is flowing over to China, and the China gaming industry is just growing so fast. It's grabbing in not just its own population, but it's grabbing people. Their games produced in China are getting attention from overseas, and that's bringing again revenue into those Chinese studios and not going to traditional studios that have been around for a long time. The money being spent in the gaming industry, in the second one here, it's not being spent necessarily on games. A lot of that money is being dropped into the platform and subscription services. So the money that the player, I only have so much money in my budget to spend on a game, and if I'm paying into subscription fees, I'm not really paying a game studio for their content. So that's also hurting the game developers. There is some brightness. The PC market is growing also, but it's not outpacing where all the other spend is going. Roblox is also a massive beast in the space. It is, and when I get to those numbers, you're going to be blown away. I was blown away by them. It's kind of the home markets, the industry competition. Again, many of the players are the hardcore players are jumping from major title to major title, but not necessarily sampling the smaller titles. And it is a little bit of we're cannibalizing our own fan base. This, Mega Title A is grabbing players from Mega Title B, but Mega Title B is grabbing from Mega Title A, and then all the small titles are just getting ignored. So that's part of it too. And then and because the user base has kind of stagnated or going down, that means the cost, the game studios or services are raising the price and kind of milking the few customers that we do still have. That's affecting growth. Okay, let's go into some of these a little bit deeper. China, again, so 20% of the global players spend, but now 38% of the growth. So is well outpacing everybody else as far as a power that's actually producing games and producing game players. China is really dominating the market. So if you're going to be launching into the market now, having China as part of your plan is obviously a wise move. What do I want to say about here? Yeah, so again, it's not just that China is grabbing from their own population; they're also grabbing in players from outside of China and capturing 50% of the global growth. So you take all the growth that's happened in the globe, half of that growth has been going into Chinese publishers, the content that they're making, which is great for them. I mean, and again, this is not to say that we don't want that to happen. We want them to be successful as well, but it is kind of saying that this is you have to recognize the big players in the space now, and China's becoming a bigger player in the space. All right, here's some of the good news. Again, the PC again has grown. PC content sales have grown. Again, this is 30%. It's a pretty big increase in the market, 9.4 billion. But again, that doesn't really replace the amount of contraction that's happening in the console space. It really, I think that ended up almost being a wash, that the PC growth and the console contraction kind of equal each other. So it's not like we've gained any real ground there. I think that's what this slide was about, right? Let's see, PC growth. Yes. Yeah, it was only outstripped. The consoles declined. It just kind of made the whole thing kind of almost go sideways. Roblox, that big beast that is Roblox. Since 2021 has been because of Roblox. It is a massive market maker. I point to this being a really important and good thing for YOM, or it points to the power that YOM can have when the right content comes along. Is he talked about last year in the last year's report as well. User generated content, which is what Roblox really is. It's a bunch of tools that people can make their own games in real time and get people to play them in real time. So it's not, it's a toolbox, a sandbox for getting creators to be more creative, and that kind of thing. The real time game creation, when you pair that with a network that allows people to reach this content on any service at all, any through any URL on any device, there's going to come along a game that's going to tap both UGC content and our extremely open distribution network to reach more and more players. And that, dare to say, will kill Roblox. Maybe Roblox and YOM will team up at that point, and make it even more ubiquitous than Roblox already is. He's saying in this slide here, I thought this was also really interesting. So while the market, the game, this is the growth in the market, almost 10 billion since 2025. But you take away 3.8 billion because that was what the Chinese market captured from Chinese publishers. And then so you have a 5.9 of the growth that's not Chinese growth. But then 2.1 billion of that was also, of the outside of China development, was also purchased by or captured by Chinese publishers. So there's still that really only 3.8 of billion dollars of growth that was not captured by anywhere in China. Console platforms took 1.4 billion of those, and Roblox took up an amazing 2.4 billion dollars of that growth as well, which lets that little tiny sliver for anybody who's not Roblox, not tied to China, and not a console service in the gaming industry. So again, for game developers who are trying to create great game content and get it out available to more people, it's a tough market still, and is what I think this chart kind of shows off. A lot of money is being spent, but is it getting down to the independent developers and the small publishers, even the larger publishers, not so much. All right. So again, this seems like bright news. What this is talking about is there's a lot more games that have been released this year than ever before. There's still the catalogs of games that are being released inside of Steam and on PlayStation has continued to grow in the past, since 2019. In many ways, that's great because that gets more content available for more players. But in other ways, again, it's diluting the market. So the players who have only so much money to spend, if they continue to stay with just the top titles, all these other titles that are getting released, they don't ever find their traction, and they force those studios to really run very lean. This again is why, and again, to be fair, when I've looked at the Steam numbers in the past, a lot of the Steam they say releases, but many of those titles, they're not really games; they're experiences. There's a lot of like anime schlock and not what you would call a game title. And it gets counted as a game that gets released. Regardless, what we're saying is we want to be able to help those smaller venues, those smaller studios get their games released on something that's not locked into a PlayStation, but just as available as any other website you'd find online. Yeah, so it is that gameplay is really consolidated into a very few amount of titles. NBA 2K, Call of Duty, these top titles have. You see what he's saying here is that titles that have been around for 6 years, or even just take any game that's been around for 2 years to forever. They're still grabbing most of the attention, and it's just the new releases just get a small sliver of people's attention, like 2 to 4% of people's playtime. So again, this is a discoverability issue. It's a bit of time constraints. I've only got so much time to play, and I want to play a game that I know I'm going to enjoy, not one that I'm taking a chance on I've never tried before. But again, this is where YOM serves. Part of our offering is if you've been around games as long as I have, you remember back in the day when you go out and buy PC Gamer magazine, and it would have a CD of game samples, like a plastic sleeve with the magazine, and you take that home and you would play like a demo level of. I remember playing a demo level of SWAT or Aliens vs. Predator. I played that as a demo level of that when it first came out in the magazine. So I get a chance to sample, and then I get excited. I'm gonna try that game when it first comes out. Well, if those samples can now be posted on the company's website or on a game review website, because inside of a game review you can have a sample of the game playing, it makes discoverability that much easier for all the people who are trying to again find an audience. Right now, the channels are all blocked. Downloading and installing a sample there's a lot of friction there. You're not going to see a lot of people do that. And certainly even more friction if it's like, hey, play this game. I know you've only seen videos of it, but go ahead and download it, purchase it, download it, install it, and trust that the game reviews you read were good enough or that meet your expectation. Much better to throw a sample of the game out in front of people. Much better to throw that sample onto a website and let people play the sample off the website without any download, any install on their on their laptop that they're using to do the homework on, or their phone. And that again gets that flywheel going and opens up that small 4 to 7% into a much wider audience, because finding a game and playing it for the first time becomes that much easier. So again, this is all the places that we're working to solve with our decentralized network. So let's talk about video games losing their attention more in the major markets. So the major markets, if you're not familiar, U.S. still number one globally as far as game consumption. China is now number 2. But it's kind of the top 8: Japan, up to U.S., Japan, South Korea, UK, Germany, France, Canada, and Italy. And I think after this report, you'll probably see Italy maybe drop away and replaced perhaps by Mexico, which jumped into the number 2 spot. So the information here is being presented and I think a lot of the reasons why this top 10, these top 8 anyways, makes it very easy for the reporters. It's easier to get information, data, in order to compile the report from these countries. There's a lot more reporting that goes on there. So I think that plays into why this report uses these 8 countries as the data points. But as a sample, I just grabbed the US one just because it's the largest one, but you're still seeing that people are, the amount of time being played in games has dropped still for another year. And again, this is we had 2023, didn't have the data for that, but you're seeing participation in the gaming space drop in the US and in all those markets. I think the only market that had a slight increase was Germany. And I think Japan stayed pretty stable, but there's a population drop in Japan, or a slight population drop in Japan, so that's kind of affected the numbers. But really, you're still seeing that a lot of players are starting to drop off. And this is a problem, not just because any single one player who leaves is bad for the industry, but I like what Matthew Ball does here with this stepping up, this laddering effect that having a single player leave is. Read this from the bottom to the top. So one player stops playing, and yes, that's the loss of revenue for the gaming industry and some game studio. But on top of this network effect, so if I stop playing and I've been playing with a bunch of my buddies, and two of us drop off, the other three guys, they're going to stop enjoying it as much, and the network effect of them coming away, or I find something else to do with my time and I grab my friends and have them try that something else, whether it be like online gambling or meme coins, or we'll get into some of those things later. Again, I'm starting to pull people away. Just my one walking away starts pulling away some of my buddies. Therefore, it makes it harder for those new games to break through, right? Step three. And then the games that remain, they have less people that now they're stealing from other games. Again, to increase their audience, they have to pull from another game, and that game loses connection, and then all the games get diluted in their market share. And then that affects the investments, and people and investors stop getting involved in the gaming space, or they start paring down what they get involved in. And of course, there's less hires, and all these costs get borne by the existing players. So studios start raising prices in order to maintain that level of profitability, or their revenue. They have to start increasing prices on the people who do remain, which further makes those people who remain less likely to even spend money, or they don't spend it in as many places. They again, the budget, if I had $100 to spend a month, and I used to be able to split that over 4 games, but now the games have doubled in price, I can only split it over 2 games. So the other 2 games are now kind of without players. This laddering effect is very, very real. And it is something that the gaming industry has to kind of take note of, that these things are happening. When you lose a single player, it's more than just losing one person's income or revenue. Let's see. So again, the PC and console market software sales shrunk by 8%. And mobile is also down. And this is again in those top 8 markets. So what was I saying here? Oh yeah, that it's not just affecting the mobile market, not just affecting the PC and console market. It's also affecting the mobile market. What's taking people's attention? Like I said, this chapter gets kind of interesting. So you got video games as one way of interactive content, and there's a lot now. There's a lot more. It's certainly these days, there's a lot more interactive content that's available than there's ever been before. And interactive content is still grabbing people's attention, which is good news. But the games are now competing with more players in this space, right? You got TikTok and all the social video content, Snapchat, and now YouTube and Facebook, and what's the other one? I don't use them enough. They're all making small, short form video content available, which it's very easy to get caught in that loop where you just go from video clip to video clip and spend an hour that you could have been playing a video game, or you used to be playing video games. Instead, you're now looking through 40-second video clips. Internet gambling or iGaming, right, or online sports betting, those gambling channels are now becoming much more popular too. And again, it's something that you do with your friends. So the friends that you used to game with, now you're dragging into these gambling places and online sports betting. So that's taking away people's both their time and attention, and then also their financial resources. Because you don't generally win when you're betting, is the way those generally work. Crypto and meme coins, it was a big surge right in the meme coin activity, and that again took away a lot of attention and took away a lot of resources, people's money. AI assistants are also people to spend their time just kind of talking, chatting with AI. That's a new player in the field. And then creator pornography, which is your OnlyFans and that kind of thing. So all those things are grabbing the attention and the disposable income away from video games that used to be dominated by video games. And what's interesting is, as also a longtime comic book collector, the same thing kind of happened to comics back in the I guess early 2000s. Was I grew up reading comics because it wasn't games. Video games were there, but there wasn't as prevalent. I mean, you could play some, but they weren't nearly as amazing as the games that come out now are. And the comic book industry had a contraction because of the attention span and the and the revenue that they used to generate kind of went over to the video games. And you're seeing this now with all these other forms of interactivity. I had to pull this up. We've got a real problem in America. Like right now, what, $5 billion on OnlyFans, up from what, 215 million in 2019. This is, again, a huge amount of money that's getting poured in there. And why the US is expanding faster than the UK and Europe and the rest of the world, we've got to, I don't know, man, we got to learn how to socialize again, because it's just, we're losing it to the OnlyFans. Cryptos, again, that we had that huge pump in 2024, 2025, and of the meme coin genre. I mean, the whole industry kind of had those two ups and downs. But every time that we have this big surge and people are paying more attention to the crypto space and the meme coin space, it pulls away from the video game space. AI apps, again, you've only just recently seen ChatGPT released publicly in the last couple of years, and not just that model, but all the other AI models. And you can spend, and I'm a victim of this myself, where I spent a lot of time playing with that's how Walter was created. Walter was created through AI image generators. But I can spend a lot of time just kind of experimenting with, I drew this cartoon, now make it a 3D model. What does that look like? You can get sucked in that way a fair amount. iGaming, another one that's just its growth, I think, might rival the OnlyFans, because people are now, and they say this about gambling, and this is look at this report. It's only 7 states that have legalized it in the U.S., and the growth has been like that, kind of crazy. As more states adopt it or allow this kind of thing to happen, you're only going to see these numbers grow again, further pulling from all the other interactive revenue generators. Yeah. Okay. I wanted to pull up this one because India, another case example. There's a large population. They very much like games, but you'll see the traditional gaming market is really kind of stagnated, and all the growth that's happening in India is happening in the iGaming space. The real money. When they say iGaming, it's talking about you put in actual real world money, and if you win, you get to pull out real world money. This is happening. It's really taken hold in India and really kind of exploded there, while the rest of the traditional gaming space is just kind of stagnated. This, again, another great slide by Matthew Ball, and I appreciate his work on all of this. So it's not just that these new forms of interactivity exist, and not just the reason they're so powerful is they've a couple of different things have happened, right? They've learned how to productize really well. Right? They're reaching more people. They're getting integrated into mass media. Every time you go to you watch a sporting event online, you see these commercials for online sports betting and prediction markets. Those things have gotten they're prevalent all over the place. The only thing you don't see during these sports events, you don't see commercials for OnlyFans. But even OnlyFans has become like it's so almost socially acceptable to even talk about that this creator-owned pornography site has become so mainstream. People know exactly what you're talking about when you talk about it. Then, of course, that network effect. If I'm found something more interesting than gaming, I'm bringing some of my friends to, like, if it's say sports gambling. I'm enjoying sports gambling so much, I'm going to talk to my buddies about it. They're going to get involved, and they're going to walk away from the gaming that they used to play. And then legalization. So as things become more legalized, they're going to see some of these products become even more expanded. I had to share this too as well. So so you're seeing the percentage of people who get involved in these activities. And again, in the US, men playing video games in the 18 to 34 range, about 29% will say yes that they do this. Down in OnlyFans, you get 44%. Come on, guys. Ladies are doing better percentage-wise. I mean, more playing games, and would love to have you in the gaming space. But even 16% of ladies on these I'm not sure if it's OnlyFans or Fansly. I'm not familiar with Fansly, but I'm not actually familiar with OnlyFans either. So don't get the wrong idea. But even 16% of the ladies are involved in those as well. We need to kind of swap that around, I think, in my opinion. But again, what we're offering at YOM, when we talk about interactivity, we're focused on games, but we're focused on pixel streaming of interactive content. That doesn't necessarily only mean games. It'll mean storytelling. God love us. At some point, it may actually mean pornography as well. We'll cross that bridge when it gets there. But right now, these are the things that we're competing with. And again, this is it has this flywheel effect. When people are buying fewer games, they're trying fewer games. They're concentrating on their time on just the free to play ones, which don't get the same kind of revenue generation. And then they're staying in the same game as opposed to trying new content. This cycle that we're stuck in right now is what, again, we're targeting with our very inexpensive and very open access cloud gaming network to allow these game studios to put their content up as easy as you put up a YouTube video and post it as ubiquitously across the internet as you would a YouTube video inside of, again, Telegram, Discord, inside on your own website, inside game review articles. All right, I'm kind of beating that horse. So 5 biggest areas for growth. Here's where some of the solutions. So again, as in last year's report, the first sections gets you kind of almost feel like, oh, I'm waiting for the good news. And the PC sales being up is good news. And honestly, again, a lot of this stuff, because we're the solution for some of these problems, it feels like good news to me. But if I'm just in the gaming industry and I'm looking at these numbers, I've got concerns. So there are areas for growth, and I think he's got some good advice about how to handle these next big areas of growth in the video gaming industry. If you're a game developer or a game publisher, or even just in the gaming industry yourself, you want to take a look at these 5 markets. Now, we're not going to be able to concentrate on all 5 because some of them don't really apply to us immediately. We'll look at the non-core markets, the advertising space, and the direct-to-consumer alternative payment channels, because I think we have a lot to offer in those 3. So again, the mature markets, those top 8 have shrunk, but China is up 3.8 billion. So and these other non-core countries are up 11.8 billion. So it's showing that there is an appetite outside of the major 8 for gaming content. There are players out there that want to be they want to be reached, and we want to reach them. So again, with a decentralized network where cloud gaming is just as easy as putting up a phone to play a top tier title, hosted on a network that the developers can afford, this means that those markets are a lot more accessible to the game developing studios, because they're not having to, a lot of those emerging markets, they don't have access to the hardware that you have in the major 8. So what we're saying is get the hardware off the equation and have it hosted on a cloud that can actually stream with low latency across large distances. And if you haven't seen those numbers yet, the last week I talked about it. We broadcast one of the games across 450 kilometers at 6 milliseconds, 7 milliseconds latency. So it's super, super fast because of the way that we've architected it, and because of the fact that we're not going through a massive data center with comparatively a very small pipeline. So again, China, it becomes it should be a major part of a game studio's or game developers production plan. You have to know that the Chinese market is there; it's growing. This is kind of nice to see that the PC sales have increased, because that, again, we rely on PC owners to let us use their GPU when they're not using the system themselves. And again, there's growth that's happening in China even with PC sales and PC gaming. Mexico, another one, right? That has they're overtaking Italy now in the number 10 spot. And again, the same thing. There are players there. There aren't as many gaming computers down there. Most people are going to be playing with their mobile devices, but there are still inroads being made by PC and video game consoles. And again, it's a good market for us to get involved in as well. Brazil, another one, same story as Mexico. And we Latam's the game Latam's community has been really, really interested in what we're doing. We've talked to Sora and a lot of those organizations down there. There's a lot that's going on down in South America that we think is very attractive. And of course, Southeast Asia and the Middle East, North Africa, all those areas, again, not only is a participation up, but I think the next slide talks about, it's participation up, but the spend is higher there too. It's growing very quickly in those 4 regions. So, or in those 2 regions, but again, the 4 different both PC and mobile spaces. So part of the plan, again, it feeds very well into what we're building here, is building massive data centers. We always know it's expensive. They are only going to do it when they feel like this is economically viable. For us, targeting node launch in those spaces, getting people to put their systems on our network to get paid passive income from their system when they're not using it, in these areas will be a particularly easier sell. And then again, that just expands the gamer pool. So some of the solutions that Matthew Ball talks about is designing for a low-end device, make your game built for a low-end device. I think we can actually help alleviate that. You don't have to think of that as the only way to do it, because with the cloud, a decentralized cloud, they're playing on a low-end device, yes, but you can build your game for whatever you want to build your game for, because our network is actually running the game. And building for low-end average, I got that in the wrong space, but average revenue per user, the ARPU, I always screw that up, but I shall go into the slide, it talks about it. Again, these low-tier devices is where a lot of the games being played. People play on their phone in most places in the world. What we're saying is stream the game from our network to that phone, and you can have that high-powered AAA title reaching all these different players, as opposed to dumbing your game down or hobbling your game just to fit the small devices. And then the average revenue per user, that low rate that is for if you reach more players and ask them to pay in less, it's a higher revenue stream than you've got when you only sell to a small amount of people who can pay like a large amount of money. That market is opening up as we get into some of these emerging countries with our content. So again, because we can be so inexpensive to stream, it's not like you're getting chopped whenever you are using a network like ours. And then the third thing that he kind of pointed out was having content that's directed right towards those spaces. And I thought what was interesting about this is we also talk about our network being so inexpensive. You can do one-off events like a virtual concert or episodic releases of a game. You release the first chapter, then the second chapter, and the third chapter. And again, it's just as simple as releasing a new episode up on YouTube of a new, of the podcast. Our network supports the idea of doing localized and small short releases, direct targeted releases of different events and that kind of thing. So for what Matthew Ball is talking about is a lot of these studios are now targeting holidays or overseas holidays and those kinds of things. And yes, that can be profitable. And I think what we were trying to say is that works very well in our network as well. Advertising. Now we talked about what we targeted to with our system, that with the ability now to stream a game. Well, let me talk first about what what Matthew Ball has kind of gone through here. It's amazing, but the amount of revenue that was paid for by ad services to studios is nearly equal to the amount of money that China gaming gamers have spent on the mobile apps. So just so if you don't talk about advertising, if you don't do any kind of advertising in your game, especially in the mobile space, then you're throwing away almost half of the money that you would have earned. So advertising is a major revenue generator for games. Again, almost as much as what the Chinese audience has paid. But PC gaming has not really. I don't think they figured out yet where do we put the ads. Like to put them up in the middle of gameplay is hard to do. They try to slip them into, inside the game on like a banner inside the game or you see a billboard inside the game and everything. But we're looking at it from the other direction to say advertising your game by having the stream available to players when they reading the game review article or they go to a game review site and being able to play it immediately without a download and install. That really is the best advertising you're going to have. So anyways, advertising a big portion of the solution, and again, something that we've been targeting now on our end as well. And then the direct-to-consumer reach and the alternative payment systems. The alternative payment channels, not so much, but obviously we're helpful with that as well. But let's see, I want to make sure I get this one right. So excluding the outside China, excluding the first-party platforms. Yeah, all right. So the stores, the Android, the App Stores, and the Steam Store, they took like a massive. Sorry, I'd like this is one way to look at it. I think the better way to look at it was like this: what the amount of money from the gaming industry that the services themselves have taken is nearly equal to the amount of money spent on games in Japan and South Korea combined, or that whole stack of other countries: Saudi Arabia, Thailand, Brazil, that whole stack of countries. So Steam and the consoles and the Google Play stores, iOS, is taking money out of the hands of developers because they have kind of a monopoly on the way that you receive your games. And a lot of the game studios are starting to say that's not good enough. Like, we want a better system for distributing our games. So they're going to, well, the Epic stores, is starting to do very well, but they're starting to look at other ways that they can release. And having a storefront powered by YOM is certainly within the realm of what we can do, right? If I'm a game publisher, say Ubisoft, and I want to make sure that the people who play my one Ubisoft game know for certain that they can play and they're going to experience, or they're going to get shown anyways, the other titles in my stable. Having my own launcher is a great way to do this, but having that launcher not require you to download and install these other games to play them. You can instead play them through a cloud, through a decentralized cloud, really expensively. Like, us being the back end to those kinds of experiences is inevitable. We know it's going to happen, and it's going to help to alleviate the pain of all this money being funneled into these other. When you find out how much Apple actually makes, they don't make a single game, but they're like one of the largest players in the gaming space. That to me is just it just seems a little bit backwards. Roblox, I wanted to touch on this, and it was because the again, the amount of money that Roblox is able to generate by being a user-generated by being a UGC content creation platform, it can't be underestimated. So what they did, it's on this here. They're not included. Yeah, so they've created their own payment system that they're kind of getting away from the other systems. And for this has been like a major savings for them, where it has grown over time. This alternative payment system for them. Is the next slide? Yeah, here it is. So these gift cards and these subscription services where they can offer you more Robux than if you just buy direct from other services. This has been a huge success for them, and I think other studios are going to look at this model, or the other platforms are going to look at this model and think that this is something they should be able to do. And again, us being the back end to any of these content release platforms, I think is going to be inevitable. All right, I'm getting kind of dry in the throat, so let me get through the last section here. So Matthew Ball does, I think, again, a great many things in this report. You should read the whole thing. I've just only got a small sliver of it. His conclusion is I think well stated. To find growth, we have to acknowledge it's not a single video game industry. There's many. The video game industry has got many different ways to look at it, many ways to slice this up. If this is the whole way to slice it, you can slice it by device, by region, by content model, by class. So you can look at growth across inside of any column and say that the PC console growth has shrunk by 0.9% if you look at it by class. But and I'm looking over here now. But if you look at it, I'm sorry, and that was total market. But by class, it's gone up 23%. So this is good, right? So there's many different ways to look at, and if you start building your channels in a way like this, you'll see that, well, you can say the PC market in North America of package sale console games has gone up 24%. These different ways to slice up the industry is important as you start to look at all the data that he's constructed and see where where the movement is going to happen. Now, for us, again, we play in a lot of these different spaces, but we play in different regions. We certainly, the only thing I guess we don't go very deep into is we don't change into the console world, but mobile and PC, that's very much in our wheelhouse. And so by device, having the game stream, it's really just anywhere there's a URL. So that can mean on a mobile device, and it can mean on the PC at home. If you think the content is good and you want to find more of it, I suggest you go to his website, reach out to him, and I just want to hit some points, but I don't want to pass this off. This is obviously not my work. It's all his work, and we're indebted to him for doing this work. I certainly want to make sure that he gets enough credit for everything that he's created. And I'll go into one of the real quick point, a little addendum. But for us, what we're saying is we are making it easier for small mid-tier games and the large publishers to find an audience, right? That make discovery easier for them because we make it very, very easy to put your game out in front of players without the download and install friction that you have with the current methodologies. We can make it happen in developing countries where hardware is not part of the, out in the general population. It's another way that, we can expand the gamer pool. And then we can power we can be the powering infrastructure for direct-to-consumer platforms that publishers are moving into. We allow them to pixel stream at a much lower cost from our network than they have in the traditional cloud gaming space. What was missing from his report, and it was a big part of last year's report, was the talk about cloud gaming. So, it's obviously our space, so we're very interested in finding out. And again, at the end of last year's presentation of his work, I pointed out this quote from Phil Spector from Microsoft Gaming, where he said in 2019 that cloud gaming, the best way to cloud game is not, it's not fast enough yet. This is, again, 2019, but someone's going to come along, it's going to make it faster, and it's not going to take 10 years. It's not going to be 2 years, somewhere in the middle there. Now, it's been 7 years since he said this, and we've got our system up and running. Again, because we're extremely local, you can be streaming your game from a PC in your town, so we don't have that lag of distance. And you're running off of a gaming PC anyway, so you just and we're allowing people to make passive income from doing this by loading us their system in the way that you might loan Uber your car. The solution that Phil Spector has talked about is right here. It's in our hands, and this report from this year didn't talk about it very much. So I reached out to Matthew Ball and I said, "Hey, your report last year talked about cloud gaming being one of the improvements in cloud gaming is going to be one of the things that brings the next wave of revenue growth inside of gaming. Why wasn't that part of this year's report?" And I thought his answer was it was very spot on. So he responded to say last year examined the active themes in the market regarding new growth, but this year's growth is focusing on other areas. Basically, what he said there is, there's not enough data yet to show how cloud gaming is affecting the gaming industry. So until there's more data to be mined, it's hard for them to say that, this has been a big increase or not a big increase. But, without those reports, which honestly made sense. I was just happy to see that he reached out and replied. This is like happened within an hour of me messaging him. He responded. So very responsive. We appreciate that. And again, appreciate all of his work. I've got a few minutes left. I'm going to open the floor up to questions if there are any. Let's see. Stop sharing. There we go. Again, I've been watching the chat. I don't see so many questions. Most people are just kind of watching quietly, and I appreciate them for being part of this. If you found value in this content, please feel free to follow us on our Twitter account. We'll do more of these as well. Follow us on YOM.net. Check out the new site. If you're interested in maybe perhaps running a node, you're not sure if your computer can handle it, we've got an answer for that. There's a node, a rig check app that you can run real quick on your home PC. It'll tell you if you've got a fast enough GPU and you've got enough internet speed and about approximately how much you can make per month. But what we're saying is that the average should be, once we're up and fully saturated, which is about 60% loaded, the average income is about $50 per stream, and depending on how much money, how big your GPU is, you could stream between 2 and 8 streams concurrently. So if you take that out, it's a multiplication thing. Now, again, a lot of that depends on how much traffic there is in your region. If there's a lot of nodes in your region and that's saturated, you might have less because we're sharing it over many different nodes. But ultimately, it's a really good return on for passive income. It's probably I'm a little biased. I'm not gonna tell you it's the best way to do it, but it's a way to earn passive income from your gaming rig as opposed to just having it sitting idle all day. And it increases our reach as a gaming industry to reach more and more players as we expand into these emerging markets and get more content out there from more creators to get their smaller independent games seen by more people as well as the large ones. Whew. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up there. That was a good long 56 minutes that I ran through that report. Again, my thanks to Matthew Ball. If you haven't read his book, it's actually right over here, The Metaverse. You should pick it up at a store. He did a great job on that. I very much appreciate his work there. And you can check out his work at that website that I will link that website below. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We will talk to you. Oh, for people who are asking when TG, obviously, as I said last week, when we do our TG, you're going to know it because we're not going to get away from the news. But again, we're still in negotiations, so there's no news there. Was there another question I wanted to? I don't remember. There's another question from the community to address today. Well, you know where to find us. We're online, so feel free to jump into either our Telegram or our Discord. Ask the mods any kind of questions. I'll forward it over to us. All right, I hope I didn't talk too fast. Let me know if I talk too fast as well. Everybody have a great weekend. Be good to each other. Do good things. And we'll see you again next week. Cheers.